the testosterone later, I think it should have been more regulated. Um, she just, the amount of vials I found in the room that she was able to inject herself, and I'm sure Kenny Kayla was not being honest with Planned Parenthood about being an IV drug user. So I feel that maybe she was trying to speed the process up and on too much, maybe taking more, and the aggression behind it. I think there should be long-term therapy before even giving the testosterone. I think the whole family should be very educated on it.
Yep.
That 21-year-olds should not be able to walk into Planned Parenthood and say, I want to do hormone replacement therapy. And they say, okay, we'll educate you with a little bit of this. You learn the rest on Google, and we'll just write you out a script on what this is going to do to mental health if there's already pre-existing conditions.
Hey everybody, I caught myself another one, and we're going to have a great conversation today. It might get a little bit emotional, but we're going to hopefully be able to learn a lot from this person who is coming onto the show. So before that, I remember like, subscribe, ring the bell thing. Actually, I really would appreciate if you get these videos out to your friends and people who you think could really benefit from a lot of what we're doing here. So it would really help me a lot to really raise the channel and get it going. So with that, I always appreciate everybody coming and watching these interviews and giving the love to the people who show up, because these are not easy sometimes. And for people to show up means a lot to me, and it means they care about what's happening in this world today. So with that, I have this beautiful human being who reached out to me, who was watching my channel on YouTube, and just reached out and had a really interesting story. So with that, hi, Heather. Good morning, and thanks for joining me.
Hello.
Hi. So
Hello.
why don't you first off introduce yourself, and then we'll go into the interview from there.
Okay, my name is Heather. I'm also known as Lady Spellbreaker on YouTube, and I teach a lot about meditation, and self love, even self acceptance, learning to accept ourselves above all else, because that I think is. I also teach addiction recovery. I am a recovering addict, and I'm going to talk today about my daughter. I refer to her as my daughter now, because there is no body to go by anymore. She's a spiritual angel now. She's an angel. So, um, she left this world during a transgender transformation. She was just started the hormones, and I actually wanted to her to wait and take care of mental health and other things first. So we'll get into that, but that's been a lot of my drive. I actually was teaching that on YouTube for 1 year before she left this world. And I just went into shock. And so it's actually
So
driving me further.
it's driving you further to show up and speak up,
Yes,
right? So
absolutely.
so let's go back a little bit here. First off, thank you for joining me, because this is going to be a pretty intense conversation. So your daughter was transitioning to be male, like me, right?
Yes,
Female to
yes,
male. How
yes.
old? How old?
She was 21 when she started it.
So I keep hearing the word was. So now I know that your daughter is no longer with us.
Yes,
Hmm. And
yes.
can you kind of so at 21 she she decided that she was a transgender, uh, male, female to male at 21.
Well, she wanted to start the hormones, and she was diagnosed with gender identity disorder at like age 9.
Wow. Okay.
It,
Yep.
and so she started wanting to be a boy when she was like 4. So we could
Okay.
even go back
Sure.
further. And
Sure.
I didn't find out there's many levels to this, layers. I didn't find out that she was sexually abused until she was 9 years old. And that
Oh, so
actually
mhm, sorry.
prompted me to question why she was behaving this way, because I got her in therapy when she was young, because it was a battle for both of us. Even picking out clothes at age 4, she was getting all the clothes from her boyfriends at
That was
school, the
me.
guys. Yeah.
Right
This
on.
is her this is her later. Kenny.
Oh,
Kenny
Kenny.
is,
Okay, so
yes.
so she did transition to live as Kenny.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes,
And
she went through many names. This is actually 3 weeks before her passing day. This was on her birthday, August 19th of
okay.
2020. Three
And
weeks before.
how old was she when she? Is it okay that we're calling her she, or do you think that she might feel uncomfortable with that and want to be
I
called he? I mean, I'm
I don't
respecting you.
I honestly have, I talk to my daughter's spirit a lot.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this is a very tricky thing for me and my psychologist, because my psychologist says I'm grieving my daughter,
Yeah.
the my
Okay.
daughter,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I hear you.
and I'm also grieving the son I was very supportive of my daughter's choice,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not exactly what I had hoped for in
Okay.
life, like
Hmm.
when I dressed her as a girl and things. I think it's a different thing for different people. So
Sure.
whatever you're comfortable with, I don't want to disrespect anybody. I've actually asked my daughter, is it okay if I call you my daughter now? Because it's been a very uh tricky thing with.
Right. This is about you. It's not about me, and that's why I asked the question. And so, if it's okay for you to call her she, and that's what you mentally and spiritually feel for this situation, this is not about me, in my opinion. So, we'll call her she from that moment, from this
Thank
moment on.
you.
So yes, 100%,
My
100%.
psychologist says if you are comfortable saying my daughter, now I actually had battles after she passed away with other of her friends, saying I'm being disrespectful. So I made two
Okay.
memorials, one that says Kenny and one that says Kayla, with her girl pictures and her boy pictures, so that I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. But you're almost dealing with two different identities, two different um that merge later. And
A
I
hundred
was,
percent. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on. When I transitioned, my parents lost their daughter, and I know that, and they grieved for a long time. So here's the situation. So I really want to understand. So how long did she live in the transition from female to male? How long did she sort of, yeah, before the
She was
situation?
more comfortable and changed to Kenny
Mhm.
in her teens. She
In
went
her
through many
teens.
names. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Right. No, I'm seeing since the age 4 and
Yeah.
9, but then dealing with sexual trauma, and she's dealing with a lot of. Did she also deal with substance abuse?
Yes.
Mhm.
That's actually what took her. It's laced with fentanyl. Is I found her body right behind me on the floor.
Oh my God. So, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Let's talk about. So here's Kenny living as a male, and and functioning okay. Did you find like she was functioning okay, or did you
Sh
see problems?
No, there was mental health. She was
How?
also abused along the way, hanging out with men. She was really stepping into a more masculine self, I think, as a means of protection from
Okay.
men,
Yes.
and so I think she was afraid. I didn't find out till she was 10 that she was abused by her father, that I married the man. And so I've harbored so much guilt later in my life for not identifying, not seeing. Um, and then I've asked many times if that could have been the cause of so much confusion and wanting to step into a position that you are going to be able to protect yourself. Because if
A
if
100%. Yeah,
if we're seen as a weaker link, a weaker, then that can attract predators even.
that's right. I totally agree with you. So you think on some level she was feeling attacked by men, so it was more like a mechanism to push men away by
Yes, yes,
looking more like a man and acting.
yes.
Oh gosh, that's just so. Do you think a lot of the abuse from when she was a kid played into this as well?
I truly do, and I've actually met others that have come across through the same thing. And by
Okay.
sharing my story,
Yeah,
it literally helps people speak up and say, you
right.
know what, that happened to me too. And then we can
Okay.
release the shame behind it
Well,
because we're sharing it together.
I know. I can't even imagine. I think, especially as a parent, and then finding out these things happen to your kid, and then yeah, I can't. I'm sure you take on some of that, and I don't know the whole story, so I can't really. But I just, yeah, I can't even imagine that situation for you, and I'm sorry that you have to take that on. So here's your kid dealing with a lot of trauma, it seems like, and then transitioning. Now, tell me the friends that she had around her. Do you think friends were on some level helping her transition, or how did she
I
learn how to transition?
I think I was just telling somebody earlier that I recall my daughter in second grade, she came home from school and told me someone at school told her that if she wanted to become a boy, she could just go on over to the store in Indiana. And I was like, who told you that? Like, no, you can. In my head, I was thinking about like a porn shop and that she could just go right on over to this store and become and get things to be a man. And I was just like, what are these kids talking about at school? So I think that a lot of this is coming through peers, yes, through um and then kids have access to the internet and I don't TikTok or any of that stuff because I've seen enough of what's going on, and a lot of it's very triggering. I think these devices have become dangerous um, in many ways, infiltrating the minds, the ears, the eyes of the youth on many
Totally.
levels.
100%. Totally agree with you. I mean, this didn't happen. Remember, I'm how old I am and how long ago I transitioned. This was never anything until social media came into play. Once social media came into play, everything changed, and all these young people were trans. So I as an elder and an older person, have a different vantage, right? I'm seeing things that, oh, I see what's happening. So on some level, do you think that um, she was caught up in this because of social media as well?
I believe that social media has played a huge part in it as well. Trying to, one of the things I just listened to Dr. Mason say, was that her name? Was
Yes.
that trans is not what you are, it's what you do.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like it's become the new um, fad. It's
Yeah.
become like
Yeah.
like somebody said, it's the new emo, and so people are encouraging this,
Yeah.
and for the youth, it's dangerous because there's no. I think in your position as an adult,
Mhm.
you were an adult. You knew
That's
you were already grown and you made this decision later in your life. It wasn't something that affected your growing that you're going to regret um, 10 years down the road because you did this when you were 12.
So,
I
but listening to the story of her, it really does sound on some level she might have actually really had gender dysphoria. At 4, you're seeing all of this sort of more sort of leaning towards, look very similar to me on some level. And then so did she ever live sort of as a butch woman at any point in her life?
She did. I even bought her binders for her
Okay.
breasts.
Okay.
And that was one of the really things that she really urged me on. It would those
Okay.
are things I supported and
Hmm.
said, okay, and I'll call I even adjusting to Kenny, saying Kenny,
Right.
that was an adjustment because when you call if I called you Buck for 20 years
That's
and then
right.
all of a sudden you said, can you call me George, for
Yep.
example, I would
Yep.
probably still call you Buck out of habit
That's right.
for a while.
That's right.
And then I
Of
would
course.
start correcting myself.
Well, of course, my parents went through the same thing. My birth name was Laura, so they couldn't, look at me and they'd be calling me Laura. I'm like, Dad, people are going to freak out on you at the market if you keep calling me Laura. Who are you talking to?
Yes.
So no, no, no. It's a process that I always try to get the kids to have this sort of understanding to their parents. They don't hate you. They're having a hard time because they're losing their daughter or son, and the name thing is important. I mean, they gave you the name, they gave you life, they gave you got to give your parents a break in this thing. But you seems like really a very loving, caring parent who was trying on some level to help your child navigate
Yeah.
this space. Yeah,
And I
it doesn't.
didn't even think about the fact until my psychologist said it to me that I've been going through grief
That's
since
right.
she started wanting to be a boy.
Yeah.
And when I found out she was abused at age 9, I took action and went through DCFS and things. And I actually fell into alcoholism. I beat
Oh,
myself up
oh yeah.
because I was like, "Oh my God, how did this happen? How did I not know?" And I blamed myself. Um,
Sure.
I struggle with a lot of like triple grieving after I found her because opiates laced with fentanyl. I'm a recovering opiate addict, and then
Right.
it's almost like it I went into shock and it hurt me. And I think that the testosterone later, I think it should have been more regulated. Um, she just, the amount of vials I found in the room that she was able to inject herself, and I'm sure Kenny Kayla was not being honest with Planned Parenthood about being an IV drug user. So I feel that maybe she was trying to speed the process up and on too much, maybe taking more, and the aggression behind it. I think there should be long-term therapy before even giving the testosterone. I think the whole family should be very educated on it.
Yep.
That 21-year-olds should not be able to walk into Planned Parenthood and say, I want to do hormone replacement therapy. And they say, okay, we'll educate you with a little bit of this. You learn the rest on Google, and we'll just write you out a script on what this is going to do to mental health if there's already pre-existing conditions.
I'm 100%. I talk about that all the time. I'm just shocked. So she went to Planned Parenthood and got testosterone without really an evaluation. Is that what you're telling me? So she could just literally walk in there, say, I'm trans. Do you know the process
Yeah, I
that
want to
she,
be a guy.
and
And
then
they
they
just,
just, like, no therapy, just maybe some kind of little intake thing. And then
yep,
next thing you know, they write her a prescription for testosterone.
I've got all their paperwork. I requested copies of everything from Planned Parenthood.
Excellent.
And they told me, I tried to get a lawyer for a lot of this, and they told me that an accidental death or medical malpractice, you only have 2 years to do this. And I actually
I don't
was
believe that.
guided by my angels to go down and get those medical records out of the tote not long ago.
Good for you, my friend. that so I do despise Planned Parenthood when it comes to this gender affirming care. It is so oh, I'm so mad right now. So you went in her room and you found a bunch of vials of testosterone, is what you're telling me.
Yes, yes.
Nobody should have vials of testosterone.
I'm
Nobody.
talking a box of them and syringes, like a big box of syringes.
So what you were telling me is you think that she thought the more she put into her body, the faster the transition, which is completely not true, and they're so dangerous. And these kids don't understand how insane hormones are, and if they're fluctuated, if they're wrong, you can do so much damage if you're overdoing the testosterone on so many levels. So here she is. How long was she taking testosterone for before she passed?
Less than a year.
Did you see changes in her physical appearance?
Yes, and behavior.
Tell me about
Like
the behavior.
with underlying mental health issues, trauma, unhealed trauma. Um, there was so much aggression, and she was literally. It was very hard. I actually have complex PTSD because of the amount of stress we went through that last year, and she was hospitalized. I don't know how many times. A lot. She had
For
just
what?
got out of the for
For
mental health psychoses.
psychoses.
And then they were over medicating her with psychotropics, trying to balance out. Plus, she was on drugs like meth.
So they were giving her
And
more drugs because she had psychoses. So they were giving her something else to sort of bring that. So how many meds? Do you know how many different kind of medications
they
she
had her
actually?
on a lot, like probably 6. I would have to call the police to have her taken to the hospital because of what it, and I think it was the combination of testosterone, alcohol, street things like meth, and then she had just got out of the hospital 2 weeks before, and then I had to have her sent back again, and they were supposed to send her to Gateway Treatment Center the night before she passed. And I told them they didn't have a bed open, and they said, we're sending her home. And I said, if you send her home, she's going to die. I literally told the woman that. If she does not go to a treatment center, she's going to die. And she literally got home and went and got some heroin off the street. I think she was trying to come down because of what the testosterone was doing on another level. And it wasn't fixing what she was, the problem. That I say often that an external solution doesn't fix an internal problem.
I say it all the time. That's why I'm
It
like,
doesn't.
you got. This isn't physical. That's part of it, but it's a mental disorder. Trans. It's
Yes.
here. It's not here.
Yes.
This is part of it. But you see what they're doing? They're doing it backwards. They're attacking the physical for these people, which doesn't help the mental in any way, shape, or form. Because here's what happens:
Yeah.
you cut your breasts off. Oh, not good enough. You need a hysterectomy. Oh, not good enough. Oh, you're not growing a big enough beard. More testosterone. It just escalates, especially if you don't necessarily have gender dysphoria, but you might have body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I mean, you said she was, I think you did say she was diagnosed with gender identity disorder.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
At because we were in therapy before this even really came out
Okay.
with that. Because her father and I got divorced, and she was having behavioral problems. I didn't know it was the sex abuse. It was trauma. She had childhood sex trauma.
That's right.
That's gonna make behavioral problems. And so
100%.
after,
Yeah.
yes,
Go.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
so kids are confused, especially when it's incest abuse from your biological father. It does something to you that no amount of testosterone, no amount of surgery, none of that is going to heal that. Period.
Period. The only thing that heals that is therapy and working through that. If you can, not everybody does heal, but you can sort of get it under control. So I'm
Yes.
getting the picture now. She has all this stuff happening. She has some disorders going on. She has sexual abuse, which is whole full on trauma, which probably creates PTSD. Then growing up, maybe now going through puberty and getting attention from men, right? And then sort of dealing with it. Did she ever talk to you about that on, like
Yeah,
feeling
and she was
uncomfortable?
very confused about men. I she dated a few men. I think she was so afraid, even after what her father put her through, that she wanted to be. She was afraid of men, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the puberty, it was almost so traumatic going through puberty, starting a period. She would never even go to a gynecologist. She would never even, she didn't want anyone touching her
Touching.
or being anywhere. And the one thing in all of her medical records, even after sharing that she was sexually abused, is her, she was never diagnosed with PTSD. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, that she was born that way with a chemical imbalance.
Mm.
I have raved to these doctors that they're misdiagnosing. Um, they did it to me. I just got a complex PTSD diagnosis after two
Wow.
decades of being over medicated with bipolar disorder. And then after what I went through with my daughter, that's traumatic
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
All of it.
yeah. That just added to it. And
Yes.
100% you have to have PTSD. There's just no
Yes.
other way around that.
It's
100%.
complex. Complex PTSD
Wow.
is long term abuse. And then I was with
Nice.
narcissistic abusive men, which, and
Added
my,
to it
yeah, same with my child. See,
with
and
your
I've,
child.
I've gone, my psychologist says I've come so far because to respect people, I wasn't saying my son or my daughter, I was saying my child.
Yeah.
And now I've begun saying my daughter again, so because it's almost like I've come to a place where it's like my Kayla, my beloved daughter, so I can go through this grief process properly.
Right. That's the whole point, is that however you need to deal with this, it's your grief. It's nobody else's. And if anyone out there watching this says that we're disrespecting Kayla, you don't get to have that. You do not get to have that. This is Heather's story about Heather's child, and however Heather is dealing with it, we all have to respect that. So do not ever comment that it's transphobic. I will not tolerate that at all. This is not your story, and this is not your child. And so, with that, that's why I asked you early on: is it disrespectful that we call Kayla she or Kenny? And what you said is all I need to hear, because it's your story of dealing with your grieving of your child who transitioned when probably they were not in the right frame of mind on any way, shape, or form to even touch testosterone without evaluations for years. Because you're just telling me your child had so many mental health problems, sexual abuse, PTSD, BPD. Like, I mean, probably could go on and on. And
Yes.
and now and so this child, because I don't care what anybody says, 20 years to me as a 20-year-old is a child, and going to Planned Parent. How old was she when she went to Planned Parenthood?
2021. She probably
That's
started going there, yeah.
that's a youngster to me. Anyway, we know
Mm-hmm.
that that's a legal age. You can do whatever you need to do out there. I don't have any say so. Neither do you. That's the issue. But the issue for me is that she was not diagnosed. She was just given testosterone,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Without any understanding of her history of mental health problems.
No, and that's where I think if they're
Okay.
not, if she didn't go in and be honest and say, I was abused, like for this to
That's
all
right.
be in her medical
That's
charts
that's right.
and them never to diagnose her as, this is why I requested the medical charts because she was
Excellent.
diagnosed as, even sociopathic. These are
Oh my gosh.
these
Wow.
are
Wow.
symptoms of trauma. To
That's right.
dissociate and multiple person to switch. It's called dissociative identity disorder now.
That's
When you
right.
actually switch into someone else, these
Yeah.
are severe symptoms and levels of trauma. All personality disorders form from severe abuse trauma, is what happens.
That's what happened. And then they didn't even acknowledge any of that before handing
None.
this young person a drug. Testosterone
Yeah.
is a controlled substance. It is not something you can go to CVS and get over the counter for a reason, people. Everybody's acting like it's no big deal to take testosterone. It's shocking to me. Do you know how hard it was for me to get it 30 years ago? It was like insane. And now I look back and I'm
Probably.
like, thank God it was so hard to get.
Yes. And
I
now
mean,
they just write it out like um it's
just
easy as going and buy some liquor at the store.
pretty much. I mean, in fact, it's easier. In fact, it's easier, friend, because you can get testosterone at 16 from Planned
Mm,
Parenthood. You can't go to the liquor store at 16. So
no, you don't.
it's worse than anything that, like, it's as if, it's weird. This is what I'm seeing, Heather. It's as if the trans thing has its own rules and everything else fits under this rule of adult. That's right. So everything else is under 18. You can't do X, Y, and Z, which we always say tattoo, right? Whatever, drive a car, drink alcohol. But why is the trans thing over here when it should be under the same law as every other 18-year-old? 18 is adult in this country, right? Is it not?
Yeah.
I think it's 18.
If you
But
buy alcohol or cigarettes, you got to be
21.
21. And
That's right.
our brains, we don't even stop developing until after. I would say more than 21.
25, I think your brain
Yeah, I was
finishes.
going to say 25.
Yeah, so
So
they want
you
to shoot
think,
drugs in kids. Yeah.
oh, oh,
Shocking. So here's your kid just dealing with all kinds of stuff, going crazy. You and her had a tumultuous relationship on some level, and you were always sending her to the psychic. Is a
yeah,
psychiatric ward?
I think the last year before her passing on the testosterone,
Yeah,
um, was probably the most tumultuous.
the
Um,
last year.
because of I would say it was the combination of the drugs and the testosterone, um, the alcohol and the aggression behind it. She was up. She was afraid to sleep even. When people have those kinds of trauma and they're having nightmares, night terrors, flashbacks, things like that, taking those other substances just to make you, it's going to change everything. Your chemical
Totally.
makeup, your
Yeah.
mental, absolutely everything. And it didn't solve anything. Obviously,
Got worse. It
she's
got
not even
worse.
here anymore. Yes,
It got
it
worse for
got way
her.
worse.
Yeah, it just seems that way. Like it just escalated whatever other trauma, because alcohol, all of that, drugs, alcohol, escalate all of it. She was clearly trying to hide something, or
Yes,
couldn't deal with whatever. What was she
yes.
doing? Was she going to school, or was she working, or did she have other
She
things
was
going on?
kicked out of school for weed,
For weed.
for
weed
smoking weed in the bathroom many
well,
times.
yeah,
And
but weed isn't a drug to me.
yeah,
I just don't. I mean, come on, fentanyl is a drug.
yeah, it's a plant
Cocaine is a
medicine
drug.
to me. It's a
That's right.
plant medicine to me.
That's right. But
Um,
but but with somebody like your child, it could be a drug because she's just looking for substances to hide the trauma that's going. She's the last
Anxiety.
person that should have ever been transitioning. She's the last person. They weren't even taking care of any of her mental health care. They were just, wow, it's just shocking. I mean, thank you so much for having this conversation because I do think people need to hear this. How they're putting people who are already in a very vulnerable situation through a system that is so sloppy. It has no.
Yes,
It's like there's no regulations. There's
and
none.
yes, none. And My honest opinion about a lot of this is I've been to recovery. I'm a
Yeah,
recovering addict myself.
yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
recovering alcoholic.
yeah.
Um, if we don't treat the mental health and the substance abuse, it's called dual diagnosis.
Yeah,
They go hand in hand, and you cannot treat one without the other. Going to get testosterone from Planned Parenthood isn't going to fix any of that underlying stuff. I have a special interest in healing trauma now and not taking anything that's going to turn it off. Bring it up and get it out. I'm in talk therapy. I have
great,
a therapist,
great, great,
and
great.
I need one because of this. It was by chance a friend of mine sent me your link, and so I'm very honored to be here on
Oh,
your
that's great.
channel
Thank you, friend.
in a
No,
place where I feel like where I'm being heard, where we need to talk about this. We need to keep talking about this. Do not sweep it under the rug. Do not put it in the closet. This is dangerous, and the kids are in danger. The youth, the children. I am absolutely baffled because I was listening to, I'm into psychics and things, but
okay,
an ad played on YouTube and got my attention. Normally I skip them immediately,
okay.
and it's for that new movie called Gender Transformation that's out this year.
Yeah,
And it got my attention, and I was like fixated. I have no doubt in my mind that my guardian angel had that play to show me what is going on. I teach a lot about angels now in the
okay,
afterlife.
okay.
So this has driven me to a deeper spiritual connection
Great,
as well.
great.
And I believe Kayla wanted me to see that video and show me that epic original of and how many people are speaking up. It's just confirmation, not just your channel that's speaking up about
That's right.
detransitioning,
Oh no,
but
we are.
many others.
Yeah. Many others. Not, but the problem is this: that we get silenced. YouTube sometimes has an issue with what I'm saying and tries to shut me down, or anyone who's opposing of puberty blockers, and then I always have to say I'm a 30+ year transitioned transsexual. I get to have this conversation. You can't block my, and then they actually agree. I'm not just some random person
Yeah.
saying, I actually have a lot of experience. And if somebody like me sees what's going on in this community, that means something. It's not
Mhm.
that, that, friend, I don't want somebody not to transition. Of course I do. But I want them to do it in a healthy manner, and I want them to be taken care of, and I want them to understand the implications and get the actual real pros and cons. They're not doing that. Your daughter did not get any whatsoever um, pros and cons. I think they just told her to do it. And
Yeah.
it sounds to me like she didn't even understand what she was doing on some level.
No, and she didn't, and it really shows a lot to me because two of her ex-girlfriends that she had long term have now had a baby
Okay.
with
Wow.
with a man, obviously, with
Oh,
a
wow.
man, and so they're both got a child within a year after my daughter crossed over to, I even like to say crossed over to the
Sure.
spirit world.
Sure. Sure.
She transitioned to the spirit world. She didn't just transition, but she transitioned by leaving her body. And the way I see it now is she's a spirit. She doesn't have a body that's a male or female. She's an energy.
That's
There's
right.
no there's
Yeah.
no genitals. There's nothing that makes up the human body that keeps us in this. I teach all about masculine and feminine energy and masculine and
Excellent.
feminine sides of our brain,
That's
and
right.
how
That's
our
right.
left brain operates the right side of our body, and our right brain operates the left side of our body. So we all have this dual energy. Whatever you feel most comfortable with is what you do for you.
That's right, but the problem is these are young kids, and we all know when you're a young kid, that stuff is too deep for these kids. They just see and feel things instantly, especially now with social media. You think you could just transition in 2 weeks, which you kind of can. Well, I want to go back to her friends. You were saying two of her friends were they also transitioning to like
No,
her
they were her
friends?
actual girlfriends. They
Oh, her
were
girlfriends.
they
So
were
they
her
were gay
girlfriends.
women. They were gay women.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And now they have boyfriends and babies.
They, yeah. Yes,
I
they
mean,
do.
yeah,
So
because they
it
grew up.
goes to show me that maybe they were just going through a stage.
Clearly, which
Clearly.
kids do. Which
Yes.
kids do. That's what people need to
Yes.
hear in these stories. Kids go through phases. Come on, everyone's been a kid. Don't tell me you didn't go through some phase, and that's okay. It's even okay to go through a phase of sexuality and figuring all of that out stuff. That's totally normal behavior. But to equate the sexuality with trans, which what a lot of people are doing these days, are saying if you're a butch woman you must be trans. Like, what? Or if you like women and you're a girl you must be a trans man. What? That is so insane. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just shameful that we're not letting kids just sort of find their space without handing them medicine. If the medicine was not on the table, we'd be having a different story. By the way, me and you,
Yes,
your child might
absolutely.
still be alive.
Yeah. And yeah, there was a lot coming up when it came to the abuse stuff. And then even when it comes like that, they're over medicating with the psychotropics, not even just the testosterone, but they were trying to balance what the testosterone was doing with overabundance of. And I was trying to tell the doctors there's also meth involved and there's alcohol. This is I was totally against the testosterone at that stage in her life.
That's
I
right.
wanted her to focus on healing trauma, mental health, and let's save this for later. You
Yeah,
can do the binder if that's what makes you feel more
sure.
comfortable. But she was all gung ho about the testosterone and just went and did it. And it's almost like it happened so fast, I didn't even have time to brace myself because the aggression and behavioral changes with the testosterone. And she found in her brain that because she's going to be a man now, she's not allowed to cry. Somewhere, something is being taught wrong about our emotions,
That's right.
about being softer, being things
Yep,
like that.
yep.
That once we become a man, we're gonna not have feelings anymore, and we're gonna be these tough. And I think that was the protective aspect of her
Well,
because
totally.
she was
Yeah.
telling me I can't cry, and I was like, "What do you mean you can't cry? You've like turned them off." Like I'm one for talking about our emotions and letting them out. Don't stuff them. Don't take a substance, alcohol, anything to turn everything off. Let's deal with it, process it, and feel it. And that I have to do with my grief, even.
But here's what I know too, and she was probably on some trans boards or on the internet with other trans people. That's one of the things these young trans, when I see from these Reddit boards or whatever, they all talk about that. They all say the same thing. I can't cry anymore. So I have this feeling that they're all telling themselves this. Now I know when I started taking testosterone, I could definitely feel different in my emotional capacity of things. But there's this other thing. They all talk. They all say the same thing, and they sort of get each other to be on board, if that makes sense, right? Like I can't cry
Yeah.
anymore. So the other one kind of copies that, and she was shutting herself down. I mean, come on, going back to all her trauma, and being so she's trying to be this tough man, but then she's drinking, she's doing meth, she's doing a billion different psychotic medications on. So I want to get to this point where, so she's a year on testosterone transitioning, and you try to get her into the hospital, but they don't have enough beds, and they send her home to you, even though you begged not to have that happen. And she comes home, and what happens?
Well, she got a ride from Chicago down 3 hours we're from, and the guys who picked her up through the insurance company was talking about cocaine on the way home. That triggered instantly. As soon as she got to the house, she was on a mission. She wanted to go leave and she wanted some money. And I was like, I'm a recovering addict, so I know exactly how the hustle works. I know how people work, and I can read through it real well. And I was like, no, you're not going anywhere. Just stay home. You're supposed to be going to this bedding gateway as soon as it opens up. This is just like a block of time. She stayed home that night. And the next day she went and had me cash a check, and I
Okay.
knew it was a bad deal, but I couldn't hold her hostage in the house. I had a feeling something bad was about to happen. I just
Yeah.
knew it.
Yeah.
And she went on down to the soup kitchen, and met up with some dealers, and that was the
God.
day she got the fentanyl, and
So
she
was she
got
buying? She was
heroin.
buying. Oh, she bought heroin that was laced with fentanyl.
Yes. And
Because all
and
that
I
shit.
don't think she knew in her conscious mind that day that she was going to overdose. I think she
No.
was just
Yeah.
trying to get high, which is
Right. So
how
it
we
wasn't.
turn off our feelings.
That's right. That's right. So that's what I'm trying to get to. So she didn't really try to, off herself. She accident. It was an accident of
Yes, I
getting
truly believe it was.
street
There
drugs.
was,
Street drugs.
yep,
Yep.
yes,
And
yep.
she came home and she did the deed. And then did you notice the
She
difference
was
in her
messed up
act?
before she got home.
Oh, so she
She,
already did it.
when
Yeah.
she came in the house, I was like, oh my God, she is
Oh
so
no.
messed up. And I kept asking her what she did. And her girlfriend at the time said, I think I gave her two trazodone, which are sleeping pills. And so I let her go to sleep that day. I
Hmm.
told her, if you just took trazodone, why don't you lay down for a rest? I
Okay. Okay.
I really didn't think she was not going to wake up in my mind, but when I woke up, I took a nap because I was up late. I was
Okay.
exhausted getting
Sure.
her in and out of the psychiatric wards. And that day, I went to come in her room and check on her, and it was locked. And I instantly started to panic because it
Yeah.
was not locked very often. And I had to go find something to pop the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
And when I came in, she was on the floor. Right. I actually moved into her room afterwards.
Oh God.
Um,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
found her. And I knew when I saw her that she was not alive. Uh,
Yeah. That's
I
just.
actually don't talk about that real often because it's so. And I touched her and she was cold and blue on the
Oh
floor.
my God.
She was so cold, and I went into straight shock.
100%. I mean, God, there's no other thing that could happen. Of course you did, my friend. So, oh God, I'm so sorry. What a shame. What a waste. What a shame. What it's just, I think what's really great is that you're using her death in a way to bring awareness to what's going on, and I have to commend you for that. It's just got to be horrific to lose a
Thank you.
child. I mean,
It is.
yeah, of course. I am a dad. I'm a stepdad, but I have an 11-year-old. I mean, it's just I know I'm around kids. I'm around
Yes.
this. Why I'm fighting for these kids. I really feel like I'm fighting for your daughter should have never been put in this position, and
Never.
it's sloppy healthcare, number one. Sloppy gender. What do they call it? Gender affirming care. What's that? That's not
Yes.
care. That is actually
Yeah.
not care. That is
Not
sloppy
at
and
all.
gross. Now, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. I don't. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think it's just because she was transitioning. I think there was a lot of other stuff going on with her. But the part for me that's upsetting is they didn't knows all of those other things before they decided that she could start to transition. That's the part that I'm pissed off about. She should have
Yes,
never been on testosterone.
that's I think the biggest epidemic right now that's going on in crisis is misdiagnosis. They're misdiagnosing so many people. Not, I can say it happened even for me, and I haven't taken any hormones. Just, I know what my own hormones do every month. It
That's
almost
right.
throws
That's
me
right.
in a whole
That's
different
right.
mood and a different person every single month. So, because I'm 43 and I'm still going to be going through, and I'll go through my own menopause, and I am not looking forward to that whatsoever.
No, it's
But
not fun.
no, I can't imagine. It doesn't sound like it's going to be fun from everyone I've learned from. So, yeah, I think proper diagnosis is going to be in a full. That's really what I heard in one of your talks before. Was you went through 2 years of therapy before even taking testosterone.
That's
We
right.
don't just run on down to Planned Parenthood and say,
Disgusting.
"Well, I think I want to be a man." Like, I shaved my head recently,
Great.
because I was getting bad headaches and things. But I don't have any desire to go change anything about myself in that aspect.
But that being said, Heather, you could actually go to Planned Parenthood now and say I'm trans and start taking testosterone with no diagnosis. She did not
Yeah,
get a diagnosis. She got
no,
an in what we call an intake that says, oh, okay, check all the right boxes. Because even on TikTok, I see kids telling other kids how to check the right boxes. Lie. I saw lie if you don't have gender dysphoria. I actually made a video about it. I'm like, what? Lie?
yeah,
Why would
I
you
just saw
lie?
that.
Why would you lie about it? That's the thing that's so shocking to me. These kids are desperate. These kids are desperate for something to make them better. And even your daughter, I feel like she was desperate to be better or to be something other than what she was being in. And giving the magic pill of testosterone was going to change everything when it didn't. She was still hardcore in the drug. I got sober to transition. 30 something years. I got sober to transition. It was the best thing I ever did because I have clarity. You can't transition a kid who's on drugs and a kid who's, and they didn't even look at her drug history at all.
No, they didn't, and
Nope, nope,
it's even the
nope.
same. They did the same to her as they did to me. They cannot give me a psychotropic drug. One of my best psychiatrists said this. Until you are sober and not on alcohol and all that other stuff, we can't tell you if you're going to need these antidepressants
That's
and
right.
all this other stuff, because they can't even get a proper diagnosis
You can't.
without, when people are on substances,
That's right.
and unless you have a truthful, honest mental health evaluation. And I understand that lots of times when we have a traumatic event, say someone has experienced sexual abuse, we can block those things out.
Yeah.
Our brain
Yeah.
has an amazing capacity.
Yeah.
I have blocked out the vision of my daughter being on the floor. Unless I really think about it and
Yeah.
talk about it, that is a traumatic event, and my brain did it to protect me.
That's
That
right.
is how we work.
Yep. 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 So that's a lot what these kids are going through. But you just said it right there. This she shouldn't even have been taking the psychosis medications, none of it, because she was on alcohol and drugs. And I went to a psychiatric ward. They literally make you sober, and then they can start giving you the medication. And they have to actually get you off the medic. Takes a while to get like to get the alcohol out of your system, all the going through that whole nonsense. She also had diagnosis of DID.
Yeah, there's a lot of different diagnoses in there.
Yeah.
Schizophrenia, um,
Wow.
but she was
Wow.
not actually like that unless she was on like methamphetamines. Anybody
Right.
who's up for seven
Totally.
days
I
is
did that.
gonna
I know.
start hearing voices and things. You're
100%.
not in your right mind.
Nope. It's insane what meth does to you. I was a
Yeah,
meth
I
addict.
know.
It's
Oh,
insane.
good. I'm
It,
glad
it
you're in
is.
recovery.
Oh God, man, done that stuff 30 years ago. Never will touch that nasty crap again. But now they have fentanyl. So anyway, that being said, this is such a horrible horrible thing that should have never happened. And I'm just heartbroken for you. And it's gross, but I can't, I think it says a lot about you to use her death in means to create more conversation and possibly save some kid out there or some parent who's dealing with the same thing that you are. And do you think there's anything you'd want to say out there to anybody who's sort of struggling maybe with their kid and doesn't understand this trans thing?
I think getting the proper diagnosis, having therapy is so important. There is so much more when you can literally sit with a therapist and work through. I wish that my daughter and I had been able to sit together and have, like a family sessions. I think those would be so important for the parent and the child. And for I think parents to be more tuned into what's going on, and so that there's not, I think, a lot of the bullying and the rejection. My daughter was attacked on the streets. I think that when kids feel more accepted, even when they're making this change, me choosing to say, okay, I'll call you Kenny, just be patient with me. If this is really what you want, that I think the rejection, if we are not at a place of confidence with high self esteem, rejection and low confidence in the world will drive you into depression. It might drive you to drink. It might drive you to do drugs. It might drive you to do things for worldly acceptance.
Right.
And so it's almost like we're walking a real thin line here because we don't want anybody to jump off the cliff by what we say or go out and hurt themselves. But we need, I think what you're doing is amazing, raising awareness for the kids. I can actually sense your real protective instinct for the children. All through the video, I could feel it all along. I told my friend who brought me your channel that I can just really feel that, and it's almost a really motherly quality because I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of even the
Yeah. Yeah.
dads usually don't have that. Like, but if
That's
you
true.
go near a mother bear's cub,
Mm.
she's gonna maul your face off. if you even think about going near her cub or a lion. So it's
Yeah.
the mother, because we actually give birth to the children.
That's
It's
right.
a deep bond there, and Kayla
That's
was
right.
my only child.
Oh,
So now everything I do is in her honor, to raise awareness for mental health,
yeah.
for protecting the youth, the
Yeah.
kids,
Great.
and because the kids are the future. Nothing on social media. I say this all the time. Nothing on social media is more important than the children and working hands on with them. I love how you say go outside, get away from your devices.
Get out, get away from this machine because we don't want what happened to Kayla, Kenny, to happen to any other child. And
Yes,
this is why these kind of conversations mean so much to me, and that I see this can happen in the future to so many kids who are being told they're trans when they're not. And it has become an epidemic as far as I'm concerned. And, people don't like me. You know that, Heather. There are people in the trans community who think that what I'm doing is a disservice to the community, and they think that I'm transphobic, and they think all kinds of things. But it doesn't matter to me because those are just words and they mean nothing to me.
exactly.
What means something to me as a kid? Finding their space and having a happy, productive life, and not this, what you're
Yes,
hearing today. This is
yeah.
not okay. And this is one. And we don't even know how many more there are of this person out there. We don't know.
I,
We don't
I
hear
even
the
just
stories.
heard about a school in California that the teachers have been brainwashing the students. And I really, am going to probably start keeping my eye on things more closely, because I believe you are right when it's trans females, so they're technically men
Yes,
who are pushing this. We could even
that's
call
right.
it an agenda.
That's
And
right.
what is the
That's right.
real motivation behind this? They said in that ad for that movie, Gender Transformation,
Yep,
the
yep.
real question is, why are they doing this?
That's the
Why are
question.
they doing this?
Why? Why? Why would they do this? It's never in the history of transitioning have we ever put kids in this space. It's why
Mm,
they try to shut me up because I've been here too long. I have a lot of lived experience. We have never done this to kids, and we should never. The whole point is to get you out of dysphoria. When you transition a child, you're putting them into dysphoria. You're not helping them. You're not helping them go, look, you could be anything, just move around. You don't need to be taking drugs. There's an agenda attached to it. There's no doubt about it to me. That's not the true trans community, what you're seeing. That is
yeah.
something else. There is no way we would be doing this to children. It just
No,
doesn't.
not at all.
It's
I I've
sick.
got I've got some elder friends that are in the LGBT community that are they are totally against anything with that has to do with youth, children. It's really putting. I've actually had to stand up to somebody not long ago in a chat because they were talking about all LGBT and what they're doing to kids, and I said, listen, you can't categorize people like it's. I'm at a point where I know a lot of people
Yeah,
in the LGBT community. My daughter was trans. I support the people's decision, whatever they want to do in their life,
yeah.
but we leave the kids alone. This is like a Pink Floyd song. We said, leave them kids alone.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
and, we're not messing around with this. And so to categorize, it's becoming so taboo, and I'm glad you said those are just words. I'm really learning a lot from you about not taking things personally, because
Don't.
somebody left a comment I shared about Kayla below the gender transformation video, and someone said, I'm sure he would have preferred death than to spend another moment with you. And I said, you know what? I really have to think about the mentality
There
of
you go.
where people are when they say something stupid like that. And
That's right.
so I didn't reply. All I said later was, little do you know she's my guardian angel now. So if you want to come messing with me,
That's right.
she's one of these
That's right.
Avenger angels.
That's right. But that's a great example of what I was trying to say earlier. Don't you dare hate on this woman. Don't you dare. I don't care what you feel about her child. It's her child, and her she has the relationship that you will never have and understands that relationship. And so this is her story of her child. But that being said, those people have agendas and they don't like people like me and you showing the negative aspects of what's going on. They want to make it all trans joy. All these kids are so happy. No, they're not. These kids are not
No,
happy. These kids are getting worse and more messed up and more psychotic and more disconnected from their bodies. And they cut their boobs off. They want something else. They cut that off. They want something else. There's never going to be an end to what they're doing. I don't. The only thing I ever did was cut off my breasts and take testosterone. I don't even have that surgery. And I'm perfectly okay. But remember how long I was in therapy, how old I did it. I went through puberty. I lived a life, prior to transition. That's what these people, they're using children as an experiment. That's what I think. They're using
it,
them as an
you're
experiment.
right. You're
Yep.
right.
It's sick.
You're
And
right. It is.
it's so
And
anyway,
it's
don't take things personal. Don't.
I'm really
Don't.
working on, because I am a fireball and I tend to react. I tend to react, and I'm
Me
really
too.
learning not to feed it, not
Good for you.
to stand up. I really like how you handle people that come in your chat too, because I run my own YouTube channel, and
Right
so
on.
it's like I can correct people without keeping it going, and then I'll just block them.
Yeah, just
I'll
block.
just block them.
I highly recommend to everybody out there, block people. Do not give them your time, your energy. Don't waste your breath on them. They're sucking you in. That's what because they're lonely people who need to have some interaction and they only know how to do it negatively.
Yeah.
Um, so Heather, it's been just a real, I don't want to say pleasure because it's just such a horrible story, but I feel very happy that I connected with you. and I feel spiritually connected to you as well. And I want to know that it just means a lot to me that you spent time with me today and shared your story to the world. And I think some people really will benefit from your story. And I just want to let you know that it's just so sad what happened to your daughter. But, I think the way you're handling it by saying it's sort of something you can now not struggle with, but use in a positive. So using her death in a positive way is such a beautiful, amazing thing. It takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of strength to do that. So you're a wonderful, amazing human being who's sharing tragedy with the world in order not to let other people go through that. So can people reach out to you? I'll put all your information in the thing so
Yeah.
people can find you.
And thank you. I'm very honored. And thank you so much for this. Because I feel like I've been trying to tell this, and maybe I was always in the wrong location. And I feel like there are so many more stories out there that
So
we
many
can
more.
turn these tragedies into, we can use a tragedy for
That's
something
right.
good. And
That's
I'm
right.
so glad to hear you raising awareness about
Thank you.
this,
Thank you for that.
because it's important for the children. The
That's
children
right.
are the future.
We only care about the kids. We're here for the kids. That's it. We're here for the kids. So
Yeah.
with that, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Please leave Heather beautiful, amazing comments. And if you have a problem with her, you can say something to her off the channel. But please don't have a problem with her. I beg you, please don't do that. So remember to
No, we
like,
don't need
subscribe.
problems.
We don't need problems. Share this with the world, please. And I really always value everybody watching these interviews. It means a lot to me, and it's how I get these amazing people on. So have a great day, and I'll see you guys all on the live.